Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. It was a quiet Tuesday evening when I finally walked through the front door, utterly spent from the relentless demands of the day. The soothing scent of a homemade meal lingered in the air, blending seamlessly with the low hum of the television. As I dropped my keys into the familiar dish near the door, I let out a long, weary sigh, the day's strain bearing heavily on me. All I wanted was a peaceful evening with Harper, my wife of nearly 12 years. Our evenings followed a comforting routine: dinner, deep conversations, and sometimes curling up with a movie before heading to bed. But tonight, something was different. A subtle but undeniable tension hung in the air. Harper sat at the kitchen table, her hands clasped tightly, her forehead creased in thought. She looked up as I entered, her expression difficult to read. It was rare for her to appear so serious, especially at this hour. "Hey," I said, trying to inject a bit of levity into my tone, hoping to ease the unease that had settled between us. "Everything okay?" She motioned toward the chair across from her. "Sit down," she said quietly, her voice carrying a weight that made my stomach tighten. A knot of dread formed within me. I'd heard enough stories from friends to recognize the gravity of conversations that began this way. They rarely led to good news. I sat down cautiously, my chest tightening with apprehension. "I don't really know how to say this," she began, avoiding my eyes. "But I need to be honest with you. You know I love you, right?" "Of course," I answered, though my heart was pounding now, an ominous drumbeat in my ears. She took a deep breath, steadying herself before continuing. "I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I've come to a decision. I think we need to have a conversation about something different." Her words sent a chill through me. Something different? The phrase echoed ominously in my mind. A growing sense of dread prickled at the edges of my thoughts, but nothing could have prepared me for what she said next. "I think I want to start seeing someone else," she confessed, her tone steady but her gaze shifting away from mine. "I've met someone and I feel like I need to explore that." The world seemed to tilt for a moment, her words hitting me like a thunderclap. "Wait, what?" I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. "You want to see someone else?" "Yes," she said, guilt and determination etched into her face. "I know it's a lot to process, but I need to tell you the truth. I love you, always have, always will, but I need to do this for me." Her words felt like a sledgehammer to my chest. "Are you serious?" I demanded, my voice rising despite myself. "You're saying you want to have an affair and expect me to be okay with it?" "It's not about us," she said, shaking her head. "It's about me. I need this. I need you to try to understand." My disbelief and anger swirled together into a storm of emotions. "You're asking me to just stand by and let this happen?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. "I'm not asking for your permission," she clarified, her tone calm but resolute. "I just don't want to hide it from you. If our relationship is going to work, I have to be honest." Her words were staggering. "Work?" I repeated, incredulous. "How do you expect this to work? You want to see someone else and think it won't affect us?" "I've thought this through," she replied firmly. "I'm not leaving you. I'll always come back to you, but I have to explore this." Her gaze softened as she reached for my hand. "If you love me, you'll let me do this." I shot to my feet, pacing the room as my emotions threatened to overwhelm me. Confusion, anger, betrayal. I couldn't believe this was happening. 12 years together, and this was the conversation we were having. "This is madness," I muttered, more to myself than to her. "You say you love me, but how can you do this?" "It's not easy for me either," she said softly. "But I need you to try to see it from my perspective." Her words only deepened the wound. "And what if I can't?" I asked, my voice low. "What if I can't accept this?" A heavy silence filled the space between us. Finally, she spoke, her voice tinged with sadness. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I hope you'll try." I needed space, anything to clear my racing thoughts. Without another word, I left the kitchen and moved into the living room, my mind spinning. How could this be real? Harper, my Harper, was telling me she wanted to pursue someone else and still keep me in her life. It defied all logic, all sense of what I thought our relationship was built on. The days that followed were a blur of sleepless nights and unanswered questions. Her words replayed in my mind on an endless loop, each iteration twisting the knife further. Had I missed something along the way? Had we grown apart more than I'd realized? Yes, we'd had our challenges, but nothing that seemed to justify this. By Friday, I was at my breaking point. Unable to focus on anything else, I called in sick to work. I needed answers, a plan to make sense of this chaos. Despite my pain, I wasn't ready to give up on what we'd built together. Somehow, I would find a way to move forward, even if I didn't yet know how. I couldn't let Harper walk away without grasping the enormity of what she'd done. That afternoon, I sat at my desk, staring blankly at the screen. My thoughts twisted into a chaotic spiral of resolve and apprehension. I had made up my mind. I needed answers. Proof. The truth. Harper had let slip that her lover was someone she worked with, a colleague she had recently grown close to. While she hadn't revealed a name, I was determined to find out. I reached out to Charles, an old friend who'd worked as a private investigator. "Charles, I need your help," I said, keeping my voice as even as possible. "This is important. I need to know who my wife is seeing, where they're meeting, and what's happening." Charles didn't hesitate. His tone was sharp and professional. "I'll take care of it," he assured me. "Give me some time to dig into it." The following days passed in a fog. Charles was on the case, and I was left waiting. I moved into the guest room, retreating from Harper entirely. Every time she tried to engage me in conversation, I dodged her, too raw and unprepared to confront her without the full picture. By Monday, Charles had answers. Harper's lover was Thomas, a recent hire at her office. Charles had traced their movements and pieced together their routine, stolen hours spent together after work, either in his car or at his apartment. The revelation struck me like a blow. I didn't know what to do with this information, but one thing was clear. I couldn't keep living in denial. On Thursday, I decided I had to see it with my own eyes. I called in sick to work, steeling myself for what I might discover. Early that morning, I followed Harper to her office, keeping a safe distance to avoid detection. She carried on as if nothing was wrong, unaware of my presence. At around 4 p.m., she walked out of the building, and there he was, Thomas, waiting for her. I watched as they exchanged a brief kiss before climbing into his car and driving away. My chest tightened as I trailed them, every mile worsening the ache in my gut. They wound through the streets until they reached a quiet suburban neighborhood. I pulled over and watched as they parked in the driveway of a modest 2-story home. Harper stepped out, laughing, as Thomas opened the door for her. Without hesitation, she disappeared inside. Sitting in my car, I was overwhelmed by a mix of fury and heartbreak. This wasn't a fleeting mistake or a one-time lapse in judgment. It was calculated, deliberate. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I had to do something. But what? The next day, I avoided Harper completely. Facing her, knowing what I now knew, was unbearable. I threw myself into work, burying my thoughts in routine tasks, anything to escape the storm brewing within me. That morning, I checked in with Charles again. He had uncovered more. Harper and Thomas had been seeing each other for weeks. Worse, they were planning a weekend getaway together, a romantic retreat. The brazen confidence of it burned in my chest. By Friday afternoon, I reached my limit. The weight of anger and sorrow had become too much to bear. Without a concrete plan, I found myself walking into a lawyer's office. My heart raced as I sat down, grappling with the reality of what I was about to do. "I want to file for divorce," I said, my voice steady even as my insides churned. "On grounds of adultery. What are my options?" The lawyer nodded, pen moving briskly over his notepad. "We can proceed with that," he said. "Do you have evidence?" I hesitated, the thought of Harper accusing me of betrayal for uncovering her lies making my stomach turn. But the facts were clear. Her actions had left no room for doubt, and the betrayal was too glaring to ignore. This wasn't the path I had wanted to take, but she had left me no choice. I had no other options left. I handed the lawyer the photos Charles had sent, shots of Harper and Thomas together, their text exchanges, the places they visited, and details of a weekend getaway they had planned. He went through them all carefully before leaning back in his chair. "This is strong evidence," he said. "If you're sure this is the path you want to take, we can start the process immediately." I nodded, determined. I need her to face the consequences of her actions. She has to understand what she's done. I won't let this go. The lawyer gave a sympathetic nod and started outlining the next steps. He explained that we'd file for divorce, with the evidence of infidelity making my case stronger. As we delved deeper into the legal process, an unexpected relief washed over me. This wasn't the outcome I had wanted, but it felt like the only path forward. When the weekend came, Harper was preparing for her trip with Thomas. I couldn't bring myself to confront her, not after everything I had discovered. I spent most of the day away, running errands and mentally preparing for the inevitable. By noon, I found myself parked outside the house, unsure why I was there. But something inside me urged me to stay. I needed to see her leave. Harper walked out, suitcase in hand, and waved cheerfully before getting into Thomas's car. I watched them kiss before they drove off, my stomach in knots. I stayed in the car a moment longer, making sure they were really gone, then drove to the Hilton, the hotel where I knew they would stay. I had done my research. I knew when they'd check in and even their room number. Confrontation wasn't part of my plan. No, this would be handled another way. I checked in as a guest, requesting a room next door. Inside, I set up hidden cameras and audio devices, preparing to document everything. This wasn't just about ending our marriage. I wanted her to feel the full weight of her betrayal. Through the peephole, I saw them arrive. They went inside, and the door clicked shut behind them. My heart sank, but I steeled myself. Hours dragged on as I watched them through the cameras. I wasn't sure what I expected. Vindication, perhaps, but all I felt was hollow. Watching them together, laughing, embracing, it confirmed everything, yet it felt like my world was collapsing with each moment. The door opened briefly. Thomas stepped out, casually dressed, while Harper stood in the doorway in a robe, her hair messy from the trip. She smiled, a smile that seared into my memory. When Thomas returned, they kissed, and then moved to the bed. I couldn't look away as they undressed and made love. Each second felt like another shard of my soul was ripped away. When it was over, and they lay in bed together, a deep, raw anguish overtook me. This wasn't the justice I had imagined. It was pure torment. Eventually, I packed up and left the hotel, numb to everything around me. Back home, I sat alone in the living room, replaying the events over and over. Harper would be back on Sunday. I knew I had to face her. There was no turning back. When she walked in that afternoon, she greeted me like nothing had changed. "Hey, you look all right. How was your weekend?" I didn't answer. I stood up and met her gaze, my voice cold. "Sit down, Harper. We need to talk." Her cheerful expression faltered, but she obeyed. "What's going on? You've been so distant." "I know," I said, my voice flat. "I know everything. About Thomas, about your weekend. I know exactly what you did." Her face drained of color. "What are you talking about? How could you possibly—" "I've been watching," I interrupted, the words icy. "I know where you were, who you were with, and what you did." Her eyes widened in shock. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been collecting evidence," I corrected. "You betrayed me, Harper. Did you think there would be no consequences?" I slammed the photos, footage, and phone records onto the table. The proof of her infidelity was undeniable. "You've destroyed everything," I said, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and sadness. "And I'm done." Harper stared at the evidence, her face a blend of guilt and disbelief. For the first time, I saw a flicker of regret in her eyes, but she didn't speak. She just stood there, silent. "Pack your things," I said, my voice breaking. "We're done." She didn't argue. As she turned slowly to leave, the weight of her actions settled over her. But it was too late. The damage was irreversible, and there was no fixing what we once had. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.